Okay, so this is now the third part of the 4-part class recording that you need to go over for the December 2 or December 3, depending on your Saturday or class schedule. Okay, so if you happen to check this video first, again, this is part 3, and you need to go back first, check the first and the second video. Just check the description for the link. With that said, we'll proceed with this part sa chapter 5. For the third part, we are going to discuss now the else if. Okay, so else if is another conjunction sa ato ang conditional na statement, which is if. So, kanina, or the first video, we discussed on the structure ni if. Okay, or the if block. Okay, so this is the main structure of if block. So the if, merong condition in the open and closed parentheses, which determines if the statement here, so for example, statement 1 is executed or not. Okay, so this the idea here is if the condition is met or if the condition is true, we are going to execute the statements inside the block of if. So that's the lesson 1. The part 2 or the part 2 of this lesson or chapter 5 is about else. Else is a conjunction to our if. So the else block is written after if. Okay? Unlike if, dili pwede na naatay else nga walay if. So the statement of else will be executed if the statement here is false. As I mentioned earlier, if the statement is true, execute ni. If the statement is false, dili niya i-execute ang block ni if, but if you happen to include an else statement, i-execute niya unsay na asulod sa iyahang else block. So that is the idea of else. Now, the third part, which is what I just we were going to discuss today, is more on the else if. So the else if block is another optional component. Again, it's an optional component similar to else. Pwede wala siya, pwede naa siya, but depending on the need of the program. Okay, so this is an additional or another optional component that can be included as conjunction with our if statement. So we always start with if. Okay, the purposes of this block is to provide another conditional evaluation if the previous condition is false. So for instance, we have numerous conditions nga dapat nato i-validate, then we can have another condition sa sunod sa atong if in order also to validate kung dili siya true sa imuhang if, base na true siya sa imuhang succeeding, isa sa mga succeeding na else if. Now, let's set an example. For example, I have 5 students. Then I have an apple. So let's say, for example, I'm going to offer the apple to the first student. Do you like an apple? Okay. If the student or the first student nga akong gi-offeran, musulti nga yes, then I will give the apple. Then, wala siya ato gina-consider nga mo to siya si if. Okay? So, sige, dawat naman niya ang apple, wala na ko ihatag ng apple sa uban. Okay? Because in this, I guess it's a loose nga tawag ani example, but maybe it could help for some. So if I have only 1 apple and I have 5 students, when I offer the apple to the first student and he or she says yes, then ihatag na ako ang apple sa iya. If so happen na dili ganahan ang student 1 og apple, so I will just be offering the apple to the second student. Okay? So murag nahulog nga ang first student represents the if, then I will offer the same apple to the second student. So technically, that is what we mention as the else if. So kung dili ganahan ng first student sa apple, I will need to offer it another to the second student. If the second student will say na ayaw pa rin niya ng apple or di siya gusto sa apple, I will offer it again to the third student, and technically, else if until such time mabuta sa last student, then ihatag na ako diretso sa iya ang apple, making it as the else for our statement. Okay? So the purpose of this block is to provide, as mentioned, another conditional evaluation if the previous condition is false. Okay? The else if block rather, includes a conditional statement similar to if. Okay? However, the else if block must be declared after the if block and before the else block. Depending on the need of the execution, a programmer can define multiple else if na block. Okay? Unlike if and else, kasalang sila sa isa ka set. Okay? Now, let's go back at tong structure na. So this is the if followed by else. Now, else if, as mentioned, is declared after the if and before the else. So dili ta mag-declare og else if. Okay? Else if. Again, nasa kaugalingon niyang condition and nasa kaugalingon niya nga block, making it as this is now our condition nga dapat i-check nga dayon. So we have another condition. Okay? So if the statement here is false, iyang i-check kung mo-met ang condition nga dire. Okay? Let me just add an execution example statement here. Statement 2. Okay. Now, if the statement here is false, let's say for example false, ang buhaton sa atong conditional statement tayo is i-execute niya ang condition nga nagsunod sa else if. Okay? If the condition here is true, similar to if, i-execute niya ni. And of course, dito na siya i-execute. Given na false man ka ha, then di po na i-execute, the only i-execute lang is kaning else if. Okay? So, for instance, if the statement here is true sa if, i-execute ni, dili ni i-execute, and this will not be executed gihapon. Okay? So, nalay isa nga ma-execute out of its block. So, as mentioned also, you can declare as many else if mo na siya ang need sa problem. So, if you can have 3 or more to 5, even to 10 or beyond, pwede nimo na siya buhaton. Okay? So, you have now the condition 1. Sige, para mas dili na ito ma-identify, and condition 3. So, once we run the program, ang first buhaton ani sa compiler pag run na dayon is i-verify niya first ang first condition, which is naa sa if. If the statement or the condition 1 is true, execute sa statement 1, then neglected na dayon ni tanan. Okay? Now, if happens nga ang condition 1 is false, mo proceed siya sa condition 2. If the condition 2 is true, i-execute niya ni, leaving this if, and the rest of the katong uban na components, skip na siya sa execution. Okay? Pag false po ni, let's say for example, false ang first, false ang second, proceed na po siya sa next nga conditional statement sa ato ang another else if. If this is true, execute niya sa statement 3. If this is false, mo proceed na po siya sa next. Kung naapa kay daghan ng else if, diri agian niya na tanan nga mga else if. Until such time nga moabot siya sa pinaka-end, and ang pinaka-end nato is else. Okay? Now, si else, as mentioned kanina, kapag false ang statement ni if, i-execute niya. Kung naatay else if, what will happen is, if ang if condition and all of the else if are false, the else statement will be executed. As simple as that. Okay? So si else, pag walay true sila tanan, siya lang mo execute na dayon. That's the idea of the else kapag na-ay else if. So agian niya nga condition, pag false, proceed siya sa next, pag false, proceed pa po siya sa next, and so on and so forth. When we go back to your material, muna siya ang tawag ani. Muna siya si else if na dayon. Okay? Ito si else if. Okay. So na if first. So pag kani dire, pag false dire, what will happen is mo proceed siya sa next. Pag false na po, proceed siya sa next. Pag false and still such time moabot na siya sa else, execute na dayon niya na siya dayon, or execute niya dire kung naakay naka-specify dira nga statement for true na dayon. So that's the idea there of what we call as the else kung naatay else if. Okay? We just go back sa itong tawag ani. instruction. Okay, so this is the else if block. So again, you can do as many else if na statement if needed sa problem. Okay, so there are things to remember when using or defining else if. Okay, as mentioned kanina, must be declared after the if statement. So dili ka pwede magsugod og else if. Okay, the else if must be declared outside the if block, just like this one. So man si if na siya kaugalingon na block si else if, another else if na siya kaugalingon na block, and si else na po siya kaugalingon pod niya na block. Okay, so now depende na dayon na siya kung how many times imo needed ang imuhang else if for execution. Okay, so let's try this problem. Okay, so there is a problem here that says they write a program to identify the value of inputted user. So if the number is equal to 1, mo print siya og freshman. Pag the value is equal to 2, mo print siya og sophomore. Pag 3, junior. And pag number 4, that will be senior. Or otherwise, wala siya i-print. So in simple terms, ing ano nga to execution niya. Ang first condition always siya si if. So ang if the number daw is equal to 1, i-print niya si freshman. Kapag ang number is equal to 2, mo print siya sophomore. And the second na dayon nga conjunction nga condition should be declared as an else if. Okay? Another else if kapag 3 daw, junior. Another else if kapag ang number is equal to 4, mo print tag senior. Then ang else, which is kung again false sila tanan, will print dayon none as per instruction. Okay? So let's try to show that one in code. Okay. Okay. So let's try this one. Let's rename this one. I'm going to rename this one as year 11. Okay. So I'm going to declare muna a class. So year 11. Okay. Then you have the main method. So I'm going to go directly with user input since we are just going to go for user input methods. So import java.util.scanner. Okay. Then I'm going to proceed with instantiation of the object. So scanner, for example, I'm going to use object scan. Okay. Sorry. Is equal to new. Diba gusto ko sa system. In. Okay. Then I'm going to declare a variable. Okay. A variable, for example, year 11. Okay. So year na lang is equal to 0. Integer man because our year level is an integer whole number. Okay. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to require the user to enter a value. Okay. Not printf, but printf is utilized para kung gusto na to i-preformat ang ato ang content sa ato ang i-print. So for example, I'm going to have here enter year 11. Okay? So then we're going to add or to require the user to enter a value which will be assigned to the variable nga year. So I'm going to use the object scan that next. Again, we're using the integer or the next int method since integer man ang data type sa ato ang year. Now, so once we try to run the program, let's just test na lang in terms of it run ba in terms of components sa user input. Okay? At least it will be a good thing to verify muna if ga-work ba or wala ba ga-work ang ato ang program in terms ana nga specific nga component. So I'm going to enter 2. Okay. So ayun, wala problema. Okay. So let's proceed na dayon with the problem. We go back to the problem. Again, i-print niya ang 1 kapag freshman, 2 kung sophomore, and so on and so forth. So, we'll proceed with condition. Okay. If daw, sir, ano kailangan tag-if? Okay. Kaya kung dili ta mag-if, so for example, mag-print ta diretso, example lang ha. So let's say freshman. Pag ira na to ni, okay, without giving conditions, always niya i-print si freshman. Bahalang mag-enter ko 2. That will be freshman. So meaning, ay hara ma-print si freshman kapag 1 ang atong gi-enter. Okay? So thus, we need to provide what we call this as condition. So unsa atong i-condition din ani? one of the struggle things na kailangan nato i-remember or i-identify as programmer is we need to validate, we need to understand the problem first. Kaya kung di ta kasabot sa problem, di ta kabalo sa ato ipang sulod. The same goes for our condition. Okay? Again, sa atong problem, ano daw yun? Kung 1 freshman. So kanus-an nato i-print ang freshman kapag equal to 1. Unsay equal to 1? Equal to 1 ang user input. So asa diri atong user input? The user input is the year. So we have here, year is equal to 1. So pag click na to run, okay? So if the value inputted by the user is equal to 1, what will happen is it will print freshman. Once we run the program again, kanina we entered 2 pero ni-print sa freshman yung walay condition. Let's try inputting another value which is 2. Okay? Waiting for the program to run. Okay, I enter 2, enter, wala na siya nakita nga freshman because of our condition. Okay? So, since ang atong problem is ano yon, kapag mo print siya akong tawag ani, kung 2, print siya og tawag ani, what do you call this one? Sophomore. So, sir, what if na lang po na ako? We can do if. However, sa ingani mag-set up, isa siya ka-conjunction nga condition. Okay? So thus, it would be better if we have to use it and else if. And besides, ay dugay ang ang last condition ani sa problem, mangoblema ta kung otherwise is none. Kay inan lugar nimo every problem, every condition that will give you a problem or it will give you an incorrect na solution dayon. Okay? So, this is where na dayon mo work sa else if. Okay? Else if, this is two words ha, else space if. Maklaro man niyo ko sayop nga no, walay dili mag-color. Okay? So else if, then we have kaugalingon niya nga block. Okay? Mo ni ang block ni if and mo na din atong block sa first na else if. So, for our condition, again, we're just going to understand what condition atong gi-apply at first. So daw, pag equal to 2, unsa equal to 2, pag equal to 2 ang year, meaning na siya i-print. The question is unsa i-print niya. Okay? So, the result will be dapat sophomore. Okay? So, nakay if, nakay else if. Okay? Tayo na to run. Sir, kung walay else at nadulo, unsa may tabo. Okay? So, once we have observed here na tayo if, then na po tayo else if. Di ba? It runs yapon. Okay? Nga walay else. Usually, manggod or common practice na yun ay else at sa dulo, especially kung naka else if. Let's try. 1, freshman. Tapos, let's try 2. 2. Sophomore. Okay. Sir, ngano wala ta nag-else gaina? Ngano nag-else if ta? Ngano dili i-else? Okay, so let's try. Sir, let's try kung naka-else na siya dito sa sophomore. Okay. So, if this is our code, meaning kapag year is equal to 1, i-print niya na. Kapag false ni, i-print niya na. Okay? So, if 1 is, kung ang enter ni user is 1, definitely, i-print niya si freshman. Pag i-enter ni user is 2, i-print niya sophomore. Sir, working properly gyapon just like kanina. But what if we enter the value 3? Okay? Since the problem tells us na pag i-enter niya 3, the result should be junior. Okay? When I enter 3, ang i-print niya is si sophomore. Nganong sophomore man? Kay ma-false man siya dire. And every time ma-false ni, i-execute niya. Okay? Muna nga dapat na to i-verify siya per year level and it will be sort of obvious na dayon kapag naa sa problem kung daghan og conditions, if a conjunction or if a series of conditions matik na siya nga mogamit ta og else if. Okay? Then 2. How about 3? Sir, kung according sa problem, kapag i-enter ni user is 3, i-print nato is junior. So we'll have another else if again. Again, walay limit na dayon si else if then ani. Okay? So, natay kaugalingon po niya nga block. Then this will be junior. Okay? Now, I guess understood na. We can proceed na dayon with 4, which is equal to 4. Oops. Block niya. Ayaw kalimti ang block. Then, we are going to print dayon, which is the senior. Okay. So, we have now condition. Kapag ang value is equal to 1, print freshman. Pag ang value is equal to 2, sophomore. Pag ang value is equal to 3, junior. Pag ang value is equal to 4, we proceed with senior. Okay. Let's run the program. Mura ni medyo, ano, sige. Let's proceed with 3. Now, junior, because diri man siya nag-true. So if you get on to try to understand this one, the value is 3, di ba? So is 3 equal to 3, equal to 1. So the result is false. So skip, proceed sa next. Is 3 equal to 3? The answer is false. So di na po din siya i-execute. Pag abot na po dire, is 3 equal to 3? Then, the result is true. So, muna nga kani iyahang i-execute dayon. Kaning forcer, kung saan itabo, wala na siya. Kay, aya raman niya ni i-process if false ang nag-una sa iyaha. Kung nag-true siya dire sa rugdanan, tanan nga kauban iya, tanan nga gasunod na else if, taman sa else, will not be executed. Okay? Let's proceed with the user input niya number 4, i-test na to until such time nga ma-execute taman ang need sa problem. And this is also how you test the correctness of your system or your program. Enter your level and enter 4. Then, ang result is senior. Okay. Sir, what if ang gi-enter nato, sir, is delete 1, delete 2, delete 3, delete 4? According to the problem, otherwise, we print the word none. Okay? So, year level, 5, enter, wala siya gi-print. So, diri na dayon mo, sulod na dayon ang ato ang else. So, sa pag natay else, so nato i-print na to si else, we're going to print here none na dayon. So, meaning, pag false, proceed siya sa next, 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 then, wala na may condition next, else na lang dayon. Remember, kung naatay if and succeeding nga else if, ang pinakadulo si else, and kung tanan ning false, siya nga block ang ma-execute na dayon. So once we're going to run the program again, tapos we'll try to enter 5. Wait lang ta. Ito, warag medyo ka-loading. So we're trying to execute here the none part. So enter your level, I'm going to enter 5, then the result will be none. So mag-enter ko 100, mag-enter ko 5, since dili naman na siya equal sa ilahatanan, then automatically the result will always be none na dayon. Let's say 20, then the result is none na dayon. Okay? So ingana ang proseso ni else if dayon. Okay? So, now, balik ta. This is the if, else if, else if, else if, and else tayo. So, by common or by default, ting-ani na lang atong iset na lang dayon. Okay? Condition, else if, else if, else. Na ay uban problems na ang kailangan lang nato is if, na ay problems po na kailangan ta og if and else lang, na tay problem na kailangan og else if. Ang uban kailangan og isa ka else if, ang uban kailangan og multiple na else if, or ang uban kailangan og depende sa problem, pwede siguro og 10 na else if. Okay? But again, depende na siya sa atong condition. Okay? So let's proceed with another sample here. Okay? So technically pare-pareha mo naman ang execution dayon. Okay, so for example, this one, write a program to identify the stage of life of the user. So the program requires the user to enter an age value. Then the program must display which stage the age is. Okay, na-type ko lang na. Refer to the reference below. Okay, the table below. So kung 0 to 12 daw, childhood. Kapag 13 to 20, adolescence. Kapag 21 to 35, early adulthood, and so on and so forth. So sir, unsa lugar itong buhaton ani? If age is equal to 0, childhood. If age is equal to 1, childhood lugar sir. Pwede, pero hastang taasa. So taman mo moabot og 66. So we can use the relation operator na less than or greater than para ani nga kondisyon. Okay? So let's work with this one. Okay? So for example, age dot Java. Okay? So first is public class. We're just going to use with the age. Tapos we have the main. And since again, this a user input, we'll try to import java.util.scanner. Okay? Okay? Tapos, object instantiation. So you have scanner, object scan is equal to new scanner, then system.in. Don't forget the semicolon. Then, declare tag variable, age siguro is equal to 0. Okay? Then, we'll have the user to require the user ang enter age. Okay? Then, age is equal to the object that next int ang gihapon. Why we have so much int sample? Because the problem tells us man po nga int man po ang iyang i-requirement po. Wala man po age nga value nga na decimal place. Okay? So, muna siya ang first component sa imong program. Okay? So meaning, dira lang siya ga-execute dayon. Let's try. Ang kaya ang iya lang mabuhat ani is mag-require or makapa-enter og value. For example, 20. Ayun. And so meaning, working properly, walay error ang ato ang problem. Speaking of errors, I posted a video about types of errors in Java. You check that one out also. Okay? Now, going back to the problem. So, ang problem niya is pag 0 to 12 mag-enter, dapat childhood ang result niya. Okay? So, simple. If the age daw is mas dako sa 0. Okay? 0 to ano man? 0 to 12. So, kung greater than or equal to 0 ang edad, taman to less than siya to 12. Okay? Kung musulit tag 5. 5 is childhood. Nganong 5 is childhood man? Kay mas dako siya or equal to 0 and the same time mas gamay or equal to 12 siya. Okay? So ing ana ang idea nato for creating such condition dayon. Dili kay isa-isahon niya. Kung isa-isahon nato equal, taas gid kaayo ni nga condition. Okay? So mahulog ni nga kani isa kani is first man. So if this will be else if, another else if, another else if, and so on and so forth. Okay? So let's try. First is dapat kaon nato is ang age is childhood kapag 0 to 12. Okay? Copy na to na para na atay basihan dire. So you can do this one also kung may mga problems, i-comment lang ninyo. Paste lang tayo. So at least natay guide tayo. Okay? So if, now, so natay if na block na. So let's start with this one. So if ang age daw is 0 to 12. So our condition here will be age. So as si age daw mas dako or pareha sa 0. You can put this one as mas dako sa negative 1. Kasi 0 pataas is mas dako man sa negative 1. Or you can do greater than to tawag ani 0. So kung ang age daw mas dako to 0, meaning adult childhood siya. Pero naatay limit. Nag-start siya sa 0, taman sa 12. So dapat naatay duha nga condition ani. 0, mas taas sa 0, and taman sa 12. So how are we going to make statement then ana? We're going to use dayon logical operator. Kaya ano, as mentioned kanina, this will be dapat si age is greater than or equal to 0. Tapos, and si age also is what we call as, less than or equal to 12. Okay? So given this, natay first nga condition and another second nga condition. So this is one relational operation and another relational operation. So kung ato silang itandi, ato silang isumpay, then we begin to use logical operation or operator, just like we discussed in the previous chapter. So mahulog ani nga mo-convert siya into ampersand. Nga duha ka bok because this is the operator for the and nga operation. So this one, we put open and close parentheses, meaning execute the first. Ang result ani and result ani. Okay? So this is how we put dayon our codes in place. Okay? So naman take age is greater than or equal to 0. Then we're going to put also this inside the open and close nga parentheses. Be mindful sa atong close and open parentheses, ha? Okay? Dapat mag-partner and ay sakto kung aha nabutang ang partner niya nga close and open parentheses. Then, age is less than or equal to 12. So kapag ito, ang atong result ani will be, i-print niya is childhood. Okay. Let's try to run the program. Ito lang sa. Let's test lang sa if this will work. Okay. So again, from 0 to 12, if I'm going to put 11, puprint siya dapat of childhood, which is ni-print siya. If we print siguro 12, is 12 less than or equal to 12? Of course. Kaya naaman tong equal diri nga operation. Okay? But if I'm going to put 13, dapat wala na siya i-print because wala na nila satisfy niya dayon. So muna siya ang first na part. Okay? Now, next dayon is ang adolescence. So si adolescence daw is 13 to 20. Okay? So si adolescence is 13 to 20. So unsa ang tani og set up sa iyahang condition? I do this para mas ma-check na kung sakto, then ayan ako siya i-convert then later. Okay? So si age daw is dapat greater than or equal to 13. Magsunod man sa ani, then and dapat si age is less than or equal to 20. So, gikan sa 13, padulong sa 20. So, kung naa may mga problem nga naay mga range, nga ing-ani nga range, dali ra na siya using this. Okay? I-convert na to nito ampersand. Then, pwede na to nibutangan og open and close parentheses dire. Another one, open and close parentheses. Then, I can just copy this one. Okay? Ay pa rin kung proceed dire. Then ako else if. Okay? Paste na lang din ako. Open. And nan ako block for my else if. Okay? Then print na to. If 13 to 20, ang i-print niya is the adolescence dayon. Okay? So let's try. So let's try 13. Dapat pag mag input ta og 13, the result should be adolescence. Delete childhood. Okay, wala man po siya na childhood ganina. So 13, enter. Now, adolescence. So maski i-run na to, tong sample kanina na to, which is naa sa 11, run na to, napayapon siya sa childhood. So pag the concept still is, pag true ang statement ni mo dire, execute, dili niya pansinon ang uban. If the statement here is false, iyahang i-check ang succeeding na dayon nga condition. So with this space, I believe nga kaya na ninyo dayon suraton o padayonon ang early adulthood, middle childhood, late adulthood, and eldership na dayon. So kani, usually kaning eldership dayon, you can create a condition na greater than 66 or pwede nimo siya nga ilabay na dayon. Sir, pwede ba nako butang else? I-else nako ning eldership. Unfortunately, dili pwede kay kung mo-enter ko og for example -1. Okay? Diri siya mo fall na dayon sa eldership kung gi-else nimo. So this should be also treated as tawag ani else if gihapon. Okay? You can print dayon parehaan sa sample na else if, mo-print na lang na siyang invalid na age kung naa siya input nga negative. Okay? So, yeah, I guess that's the idea when we solve problems, when we create solutions using what we call as else if. Again, we need to just review this one kay mo magini siya atong main na structure. We'll start with if, kung na ay next nga kung na atay next nga following condition, we use else if. Kung pila ka buok, we use as many else if as we can. Then we terminate or we end it as else. On a common practice, ginagamit ang else if na for example, kaning mga invalid na mga inputs. So you can put here a system.print, invalid input, system.print. You have entered invalid data and so on and so forth. Okay? So, yeah. This is now the else if na structure. And this completes also the whole nga if na structure na pwede nato i-work on. So in your for this part, I want you to proceed with the tinyurl.com/ the code will be tapos it will be 102-CH5, capital CH yan ha, tapos -3. You answer the activity sulod ani na Google file, Google Forms. Okay? So answer this on or before December 4. Okay? Maybe manglapas na mo anig alas 12 sa udto. So musugot na lang ko masihapon niyo siya. Basta it should be sige na lang. It will be December 4 before 5 p.m. Okay? So again, check this one, then answer the Google form nga naa dito.